Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all. A very warm welcome from my side. My name is Denise Loga. I'm your moderator of the day. I am also a lecturer and module leader with the Master in Entrepreneurship for Regenerative Food Systems here at Zurich University of Applied Science. I'm a member of the board of Foodward Foundation. I'm also a speaker, consultant, and book author. We will dive today into the exciting topic of planetary health diet solutions, turning global visions into local actions. Coming to the agenda, my dear audience, we will start with some exciting keynotes with researchers from all over the world. And then we go right into a panel discussion and pitches from 5 research groups here at Zurich University of Applied Science. They will actually have some fascinating numbers and insights for you. And then in the afternoon, it becomes a little bit more interactive, and we count on your valuable inputs and questions and comments, because we want to get your perspective as well and have a lively discussion. We also have a 1-hour lunch break between the 2 co-creation sessions, so on a logistical note at 1 p.m. And please use this break and every other break to exchange with each other, inspire each other, and try to get some local action on the ground. This is the reason why we're coming here today. So without further ado, it's a huge pleasure for me to welcome Mr. Urs Hilber, the Dean of Life Science and Facility Management here at the Zurich University of Applied Sciences, with his welcoming work on stage. Urs, the floor is yours.
Dear guests from all over the world, dear colleagues from Switzerland, dear participants from Zurich and Wädenswil. Yesterday evening, the first lake week started with a dinner with local food fondue in a yurt on the lakeside square in Wädenswil. And I sincerely hope the cheese was not too heavy for our guests, and you all feel well this morning. An interesting day awaits us. Today is a highlight for me, and hopefully the same holds true for all of you. My name is, as Denise already said, Urs Hilber, and I have the pleasure to welcome you in my function as Dean of the School of Life Sciences and Facility Management of the University of Applied Sciences, Zurich. The first Lake Week is a major event of the University of Applied Sciences, Zurich, which we were able to bring to life for a very happy occasion, namely the inauguration of our new Future of Food campus, which you may have already explored this morning a little bit during the first guided tours. Our Lake Week is a small version of the Hub Week, which takes place in Boston every year, and at which the numerous universities in Boston present themselves. We will come back to the expression of a hub towards the end of the week. We will then be founding the Food Hub Wädenswil, and we will be honored by the presence of 2 government councillors while doing so. But now it's a great pleasure and really a great honor for me to be able to welcome our international, national and local guests. First of all, I would like to welcome online Sophie Egan from Standford. Then I would like among us to welcome from Tufts University, Katie Stabbins, from Harvard University, David Havelick, then from Rutgers University, Megan Francis joined us. From WPI, we have 2 professors with us, Daniel Coty and Angela Incoligno Rodriguez. Sorry for the pronunciation. Then we have from the Food Campus Berlin, Teresa Hingsamer. Then we have guests from Brazil. The CEO from Swissnex, Marlene Borg, is with us, and with her, from the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation, Gustavo Porpinho. Here he is. Then from Swissnex Boston and New York, Nathalie Minter joined us. From the city of Zurich, René Estermann, and our moderator is for today, Denise Loga. We have also startups with us, for example, Hungry Foods with Sophia Graupner. Then a special welcome to our colleagues from Austria. It's a group with us which is on tour for a sustainable food systems workshop. And last but not least, I would like to welcome the guests from our own university, Christine Brombach, Sharon Nehrenheim, who is a master student, Selçuk Yildirim, Nadina Müller, Irene Cecik, Thilo Hühn, and Susanne Miescher. And excused today is Kati Piu from formerly edX. Please be warmly welcome to Wädenswil at the Lake Week. It won't be long before my home country Switzerland will be home to 10 million inhabitants. Our planet is heading to 10 billion Earth citizens. While the residents of Switzerland have no doubt that they have enough to eat, the situation is different worldwide. I hope that the Swiss people's trust that they will always have enough to eat will come true. The Eat Lancet report says that it will be possible to feed 10 billion people, but not in the way we do it today. A change process is needed and faster than we can imagine. It is therefore crucial that the world's universities and research institutions join their forces and tackle this huge challenge together. The topic is important to everyone today and in the future, but we are still too few members in our sustainability community. Our task to lead the change involves therefore community building, research and education at the same time. Together we have to develop and to share a common vision globally. And then we have to organize the transformation in order that it arrives on our food plates here locally, from global vision to local action. In my eyes, it's a privilege to be together today, spending time together physically instead of online, and coming together from all over the world must having a high quality and develop strong bonds. I am proud that we will be working together here in Wädenswil on the topic of planetary health diet. I hope that in the future we will be able to integrate our new friendships and our new infrastructure into the work on solving the question of how we can become a regenerative society that feeds itself in such a way that our planet will still remain worth living on for our children's children, and in such a way that everyone is well. Today, it's the fulfillment of one of my personal goals and dreams, namely to network our University of Applied Sciences, our School of Life Science and Facility Management with its institutes, even further with you and your prestigious universities. I do sincerely hope that at our first Lake Week we will also open the doors for faculty members and students from your organizations for future stays in Wädenswil with scientifically like-minded people. I would like now to thank the organizing committee, Thomas Bracci, Michael Kleinert, Birgit Gamenisch and Anita Buchli, as well as everyone else involved for the immense amount of work that has been done over the past 2 years, especially for the program that has been co-created today. I now officially open the first Lake Week, and I give the floor to our moderator, Denise Loga, with a special thanks for the organization of today's program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Urs, for your lovely welcoming words. And we start right away with our short keynotes to kick the day off on planetary health diet initiatives and existing solutions to get you inspired for the day. And I see she's already on her feet. A very warm welcome here on stage, Professor Dr. Christine Brombach from the Institute of Food and Beverage Innovation at the Zurich University of Applied Science. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody here, and thank you very much for inviting me to talk to you about a project that really now has kept me quite busy for the last 2 years. And I would like to talk with you about how we actually can tackle with the very present problems that we have in an everyday life concept. So I feel we as a University of Applied Sciences really also have the task to bring our research into the praxis, to the people, so that we also have our share in trying to cope with what is going on for the future. Well, but if we need to go on, for looking into the future, actually, we have come a long way in mankind, and I would like to invite you to follow through in a very brief, short, historic looking back, trying to understand the present, and then find some solutions for the future to tackle with our crisis situation that we feel we have at the moment. And food is a very crucial part in it. And as in life, so in death, food remains our most faithful attendant, because we have to eat, we have to feed our body. So in looking back into the history, we have come a long way, starting at the ancient dark times in Stone Age. And for me, Ötzi is such a prototype until today. And we need to face future, and I would like to invite you to these 6 stages that I would like to point out. So starting with the Stone Age, this is where we are today. And for the future, we are talking and thinking about if we can find new ways in the way how we eat. And we came from a nutritive challenge that really had to be solved in order for survival. Now, this is not a mistake, but this is a picture from the inside of your mouth. And once you open your mouth, something comes in your mouth. So during these very ancient times, we first had to learn as mankind what is edible, what might be poisonous. And this took us quite some time, some efforts. So moving on from there, we then developed into some cultural challenges that we had to deal with. This was a time until about modern times where we had to learn how we eat, when, what, which food, how to manufacture food, and even start food technologies. Moving on again, I will now really rush through history in some slides. We come now to a time when all of a sudden we shifted our paradigm, and I call it the maximization dilemma, which means that everything is growing and expanding, mankind. So we have had during these times an assumption that everything is available and we can make economic use of it. And this is a time when we consider there is growth without limits. Now, as we know, there is no growth without limits, because in a closed system, we have to make a resource of what we have. And in a biological systems, growth without limit, that's cancer, and that kills itself. So we kind of moved on in these stages, in these challenges that we as mankind had to deal with, all of a sudden with an awareness that there are some limitations, and the marker of it in the mid-70s, rather at 1972, was an issued publication, The Limits to Growth, where we all of a sudden became aware that things have to be changed. And also, in addition, we had the computers to move into our daily lives, gradually at the beginning, and then really picking up in time, as I will show you in the next slide. We also had some changes in our society when I just relate to some demonstrations such as no war, and we also had something that I call the picking up of the to-go movement, where all of a sudden food was available at a very, very easy way, and you just could grab and eat on the go or drink on the go. Well, then we move on to, let's say, the more digitization. I call it the digital dilemma. And to me, it there was a change until the 2018. And this digitalization really started with a device that. In 2007, the iPhone came to the market, and all of a sudden we had all kinds of connection between people. And to me, it was quite astonishing that something that was more or less privately discussed, such as food and food discourse, became now public because you could share it. And I'm sure you are all quite familiar with such a picture, that instead of what had been maybe in former times a prayer or a ritual to start the table, now starts with taking a picture that you then share with your community. So, but that was not the whole story, because now we are moving more to the present, and I call it the transformative, the crisis dilemmas that we have, the Anthropocene, a term coined by Paul Crutzen at the beginning of this century. So ever since, we are dealing with new challenges, and I've just give you some pictures such as Fridays for Future, or Greta Thunberg, when she really made that proclamation that she really fights for a better future and her generation. And also in 2019, quite unhidden at the beginning, not really in a very remarked way, all of a sudden scientists became aware that there are some really changes. Food in the Anthropocene. Besides that, we have now a far more dominant awareness of KI and AI that really also merges into the same direction. Now, what do we learn from these transition stages? At the moment, we are discussing anew that there is a non-appropriation and non-availability of the world, which we must acknowledge and which we must debate on anew. And that the food in the Anthropocene has to make profound changes in the way how we eat, because we know that while the population increases worldwide, that Urs had already marked that, we know that our resources decline, and we have issues such as the climate crisis, as you're all aware of. And this is the beginning, actually, of a huge scientific discourse on these suggestions that I have to stress are consensus on recommendations on food intake, how we have to make or how we should make changes on a global level. And I'm sure most of you are aware that there are 14 food groups that will then in the end sum up to 2,500 kilocalories per person per day on a global level in order to combine sustainability and health. But we also know, and now I come to the local aspect, that in Switzerland, food is among the 3 major impact areas for the climate and also for health. And what you also see on this slide is that there are red areas. These are imported foods, because Switzerland as a nation has to import quite an amount of food in order to sustain the population. So given also some data or some insights into the first representative nutrition survey in Switzerland at the population, we have to state in reference to the Planetary Health Diet, we eat too much red meat, dairy products and added sugars, and have a lack in whole grains, legumes and nuts. So sustainability and health needs to be improved given the present dietary situation in Switzerland. But how do we get there? How do we actually transform this knowledge into everyday life practices? We know, on average, Swiss cook 38 minutes per day. Cooking is still a gendered task, but much is still unknown what happens actually in the private household. How is this information transformed and, more important, adhered to? So it's not just a one-stage issue, but that we keep it on, making this change. So does actually the planetary health diet work? Yes, it does. But we have to get into these aspects, how to transform, to make a scientific approach. We started to look closely more into how to transform these diets into everyday life and came up with a cookbook that will be soon onto the market, where we have certain recipes based on the planetary health diet and healthy nutrients, but also giving much more information onto how to transport this into everyday life. We did it in a scientific way. We approached it and we tried it out. We did researches on that. And we also included various different aspects, such as regenerating farming systems, just giving you some nice slides into this book. And we will give a demonstration, and you also can taste it, this coming up Wednesday over the lunchtime. And so this is how we try to transport actually scientific knowledge into practice to encourage people to really make a change in their everyday life habits and diets in order to reach out and reach finally this transition goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Wonderful. Thanks for your great work. Okay. Now, what follows now actually is a digital appearance by Sophie Egan from the she's the director of the Standford Food Institute and co-director of the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative, and also book author with the title of her book, How to Be a Conscious Eater. So she's very sorry that she cannot be with us here today in person. She had to cancel recently, but I'm very happy that we still have her as a digital experience. So please film up.
Greetings from Stanford, everyone. My name is Sophie Egan. I'm director of the Standford Food Institute and Sustainable Food Systems, and I'm delighted to be with you for this historic International Day of Lake Week. My sincere thanks to the organizers for the invitation to join you from afar for just a couple of minutes. And I really am excited to tell you a little bit about the work that we do at Stanford, but more importantly, the work that we do collaboratively with other universities all across the United States and internationally. So for brief context, I'm here on behalf of Residential and Dining Enterprises at Stanford, which has over 100 locations that serve amazingly delicious, globally inspired, healthy, and sustainable foods. And we serve over 25,000 meals a day. One of the biggest reasons I'm excited to be in this role, and also as co-director of an initiative I'll tell you about, the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative, is that we leverage the power of institutional purchasing to drive meaningful changes in the food system and to drive meaningful changes in student preferences and ultimately in eating habits that support planetary health and everything that you're there to be discussing. We have a long history of uniting the imperatives of both nutrition through our Eat Well, and not only nutrition, but overall mental health and total well-being programs with environmental sustainability. We know that sustainability means many different things to different people. And we were actually one of the first universities to have a dedicated sustainable food program. And building on that long history, we now work to focus our purchasing power, thought leadership, menu design, culinary creativity and diversity, and our many partnerships and collaborations to support 6 key pillars. These are climate smart dining, racial equity and supporting Black businesses, curbing deforestation through supply chain pressure, thriving oceans, catalyzing a circular economy of food, and embracing systems thinking. The Standford Food Institute is a really exciting offshoot of Residential and Dining Enterprises that was founded by Dr. Shirley Everett, who was Senior Associate Vice Provost for R&DE and Senior Advisor to the Provost on Equity and Inclusion. And her vision is really to create a wide-reaching platform to unite an entire community of people who are passionate about delicious, healthy, and sustainable food, and really to do so through education and research and innovation in support of the academic mission of the university, ultimately to shape a better food future. So we're proud of the work that we've done in just a few years of our existence as an institute to actually conduct living laboratory research using campus dining halls as living laboratory with faculty in all 7 schools across our campus, and to support educational initiatives and coursework in all of those 7 schools. We also held our inaugural Standford Food Institute Food Systems Research Symposium in May that really showcases, brings to life the idea of the Institute as this hub, as this community platform for research, transdisciplinary research that truly takes that systems lens to solving some of the most challenging issues in the food system. We see an enormous opportunity and a responsibility as Stanford to be a thought leader and to be a positive domino for change throughout not only higher education and other campus dining programs, but throughout the entire food service industry. So we have an initiative called the Equitable Harvest Black Farmers Initiative that seeks to help reverse the disappearance of Black farmers in the United States. But it's also about raising awareness and trying to normalize the importance of equitable supply chains and supplier diversity in general. So we've released 2 toolkits, and this is a many years long initiative to really help raise this issue. And it's one of 2 key areas, along with bold climate action, that are of particular focus for the Institute. One of our most important partnerships and collaborations is the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative, which we co-founded and jointly lead with the Culinary Institute of America. And I'm the co-director, as I mentioned, and we seek to cultivate the long-term well-being of all people and the planet, one student, one meal at a time. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary and also really proud of our common language, which is the 24 Menus of Change principles that are put forward by the Culinary Institute of America and Harvard Chan School. You might have heard about Menus of Change from some of our colleagues who are there with you in person. We have participation from Tufts and Harvard, among others. And this is, again, this kind of critical call to action to focus on that nexus of both human and planetary health, but really to make it very practical, translating the science into real world strategies that not only universities, but any food service operator can take. And the University Research Collaborator acts as an accelerator. We really test and innovate what are going to be the most effective strategies for getting diners to actually eat those healthier and more sustainable options. So we bring together forward-thinking scholars, food service leaders, executive chefs and administrators, and of course students, all towards this vision. And these are stakeholders on a campus who don't often talk to one another. They don't often even know who each other are. And that's what some of the key silos that we've been successful in breaking down on a given campus. But we also know that there's so many universities all doing really exciting work around food, and they're often not talking to one another either. So my key message for you today, if you take away nothing else, is that collaboration is key. And we are able to really learn from one another in terms of research methods, doing that living lab research through multi-site research. So we test a research design and do it at one school, not just for the sake of publishing an academic paper, but to inform real world operational strategies, millions of dollars of food purchases, thousands and thousands of meals. And then we also replicate that research across multiple locations to see if it's a more generalizable effect. We celebrated our 10th year anniversary at Stanford this year. It's been an exciting decade, and we've accomplished a lot in terms of research, but also collective impact. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But my second key point is to say, join us. We're always looking for, especially more international members. We started only in the US and have now grown to have a decent contingent abroad, and we're looking for more folks to join us. Again, we're eager to learn from and contribute to others who share this mission around research, education, and innovation in order to shift diets and support planetary health. The other key call to action is to consider the power of collective purchasing power. So we have an initiative called the MCRC Collective Impact Initiative that really is about shifting institutional protein purchases, protein portfolios. And there's lots of reasons to focus on protein, but it's basically the outsized impact that they tend to have on greenhouse gas emissions. So in 2019, we set a 25% reduction goal collectively. Collective target setting is so powerful and often an overlooked opportunity, with each company and institution making their own commitments and targets. Whether anyone follows up on that is to be determined, but often they're missing the opportunity to share learnings, but also to align their targets to truly make shifts at the supply chain level, at the food system level. And that's what we're most proud of. You can see here the dozens of institutions that participated. And we were able to accomplish in just a few years an astonishing result, which is that across 200 million pounds of food, sorry, I should have translated that to kilograms. Someone can use the calculator and help the audience. This is a lot of food, okay? That's the key point here. We were able to actually achieve a 24% reduction in kilograms of carbon dioxide, kilograms carbon dioxide equivalent per kilogram of food purchased among participating institutions. That's astonishing. And it's with universities, but it's also with Google globally participating in this effort and many others. We're nerds. We love social math. Here's a bit of a glimpse of the equivalencies, taking a lot fewer round-trip cross-country flights across the US, taking thousands of cars off the road. This is making a real dent. And essentially what you can see is that this was accomplished through shifts towards more plant-forward purchases. Lots of people are talking about plant-forward, but the key outcome here is that we're doing this at scale by working together, sharing our learnings, and having that shared target setting. We also are not going to lose sight of the importance of that human nutrition aspect. So we've now aligned with the Eat Lancet Planetary Health Threshold and announced a new 40% reduction by 2030. You might be familiar with a very similar initiative called the Cold Food Pledge, which we actually jointly created both of our methodologies. It's not either or. You can participate in both initiatives, and the World Resources Institute is a great partner. And we'll continue to share our methodologies and learnings along the way. But really, we really pride ourselves on this special focus on the equal importance of not just reducing emissions, but optimizing to improve truly planetary health and human health as part of this. So in closing, join the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. This is a chance to get involved with that groundbreaking collective impact initiative and strategy to collectively reduce food-related greenhouse gas emissions, but also to participate in groundbreaking multi-site living lab research. You can contact my colleague, Shannon, at smunts@stanford.edu, or reach out to me directly at smegan@stanford.edu. We're always looking for exciting collaborations to take this work to the next level. I hope you have a phenomenal time the rest of Lake Week, and thank you again for this opportunity. I hope to hear from you soon and to continue on this important work together, leveraging the power of collective impact and living laboratories to truly advance planetary health. Take care.
We will, of course, continue, Sophie, in the discussion and in any projects or initiatives that may start from today on, from Stanford to Harvard. David Havelick, a very warm welcome on stage. He works for the Harvard University Office for Sustainability, and he led the process to create Harvard's newest Sustainability Action Plan. Very warm welcome.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and learn and share and see the new future of Food Campus. I'm going to talk a little bit about our work at Harvard, and of course you'll see some similarities with Sophie and Stanford because we work together. We're always looking to them to learn from, et cetera. And here's the slide advancer. So just quickly, in my talk, I'm going to try to cover very quickly 5 things: our approach to sustainability in a larger sense, our concept of living laboratory, which you were hearing Sophie talk about, a testbed for innovative solutions, our approach to sustainable food more specifically, and then really the opportunity for scale that institutional food service provides, and maybe even kind of starting to think about a research agenda and what's needed by practitioners to help advance a planetary health diet. So as Denise just mentioned, one of the projects I led recently was Harvard's new Sustainability Action Plan, which you could find here. We're really trying to accelerate action to protect the climate and environment, advance a more equitable society, and promote the well-being of people. So people are really at the center of our definition of sustainability. And we're really trying to do all 3 of those things in everything we do to create a better planet for the future generations. And at Harvard, we're leveraging 12 plus different schools. So we have the law school, the business school, the college, et cetera. And we serve over 10 million meals a year, and we have over 50,000 people on our campus. And when we're thinking about our work, we're not just trying to make Harvard more sustainable. We're really trying to use Harvard as this kind of gear moving society, the world, working with others. We're just one of many gears doing this work. But that's why, as an example being here today, the idea is not to just keep our gear separate from everything, but really be trying to send market signals, share what we're learning, and learn from others. And so my office, the Office for Sustainability, is really responsible for institutional goals and action and creating strategic frameworks and partnerships. We also work very closely with a new group at Harvard, the Salada Institute for Climate and Sustainability, that is responsible for research and teaching. But there's lots of ways that we can work together, of course, with research and teaching. So first of all, taking what research and teaching is showing and applying that to how we are running our campus. And the other way, really providing opportunities for researchers to use our campus as this living laboratory, again, very similar to Stanford, as this opportunity as a living lab to test new innovations and learn from that. So these are the 4 priorities at Harvard: how we power, how we build, how we operate, and how we lead. And of course, today I'm going to talk about how we operate and food more specifically. And so in 2019, I helped lead the process to create sustainable and healthful food standards for Harvard. We needed these food standards because there's multiple food vendors at Harvard, not just one. And so we needed a common framework and to align our food providers around a shared definition of what we mean by sustainable food. When I started this process, our food vendors mostly thought of sustainability as organic and local, and that has changed, obviously, during this process. We're trying to drive changes in the marketplace, quantify the impacts, teach people along the way, enhancing food literacy on campus, and helping individuals match their actions to their values. And so I had the privilege of working with several faculty around the university. You could see in the top left corner is Walter Willett, who was one of the lead authors, or the lead author of the Eat Lancet report, which you were hearing about earlier, and also Emily Broadleib, right under his picture, who runs the Food Law Policy Clinic at the law school, and many others. And these faculty, of course, looked to the science. We were lucky enough to be able to draw from the Eat Lancet report before it came out, because our food standards were coming out the same year. And in that report, it says, food is the single strongest lever to optimize human health and environmental sustainability on Earth. So, of course, this was important work. And we looked to the Planetary Health Diet. And here's some North American numbers, of course, no surprise. And this aligns with the previous speakers, that we're overeating things like red meat and things like that. We also looked to the science. So plant-based food, you can see in the green pie chart, is a major source of calories and even more than 50% of protein worldwide. But of course, no surprise, they only use 17% of agricultural land use and less than half of greenhouse gas emissions. So obviously, there's this mismatch and inefficiency around animal-based products. So we're very focused on a plant-forward future. We also looked to places like Menus of Change and the Menus of Change Research Collaborative that Sophie just talked about. And also the Center for Good Food Purchasing, which is started in Los Angeles. They work with cities. The city of Boston just signed on recently, and they have a really holistic look at sustainable food and have reporting on that. So when we came out with our food standards, we're really focused on 6 different categories. So I'll talk mainly about climate in a moment, but of course we're also focused on reducing food waste, consumer well-being, things like nutrition, welfare of animals, education and food literacy, and then also the well-being of people and workers in the supply chain. And so in 2019, we signed on to the Cool Food Pledge, again, that you just heard Sophie talk about, which is aligned with that collective impact program that she was just talking about. And this is aligned also to the Paris Agreement. So we're trying to reduce our food-related greenhouse gas emissions by 25% by 2030. But we're looking also at the climate intensity of our food, so emissions per calorie. And so ever since we signed on to that, and even before that, I'll just give you some examples of the work by our food service providers. So we've been providing plant-based chef training for our chefs, both the head chefs and also the line cooks, and that's transformed our menus dramatically. We're nudging behavior in our dining halls, in catering, and in retail cafeterias. So changing the defaults, making maybe the default main menu item plant-based, and you could add dairy or meat to it. The top left, you could see my office and many offices at Harvard are setting up default veg policies. So for an event, maybe saying that a plant-based meal will be served and people can ask for meat if they'd like. Just by changing the default, it's extremely powerful. Same thing with ratios on our catering menus. So this may be too small, but this is our sandwich menu on the catering menu at the Harvard Business School, which you'd think maybe is mostly serving steak. But here's a menu that actually lists, I think, 9 plant-based sandwiches before it even gets to something with meat or dairy. We've also tried climate labeling in our dining halls for our undergraduate students. Didn't really make the impact that we wanted, but that's an interesting finding, right? That students, maybe when they're having lunch on the way to a final exam, are not trying to save the planet, they're just trying to grab something delicious. And so now we lead, of course, with deliciousness, delicious flavors, and labels for our menu items. We've also added several new items to the menu that may look like shrimp, but it's plant-based shrimp there. Beyond Burger, oat milk, etc. have been things that have really pushed us in a plant-forward direction. We also created sustainable meeting and event guide for people hosting meetings. You can find that on our website. We've worked with a group called Greener by Default that helped our catering partners develop kind of better catering menus, which you just saw an example of. And the Cool Food Pledge also provides this playbook of nudges that are really helpful. They're updating that, should come out soon. I was just in Copenhagen. They promised they're launching this new playbook in a couple months. And the new playbook is really grounded in the research. So they're going to have, so you'll be seeing it soon. Keep your eye out. 6 Ps. So it's presentation, placement, product, people, promotion, and price, all backed by research. So they're all techniques for nudging diners toward more plant-based dishes. And I can say for sure that several of the techniques that they're recommending are not grounded, don't have enough research yet. And so that's a great research opportunity for people to go into. And so here's some of the numbers. So I showed the Cool Food Pledge. These are our Harvard's numbers. We're moving in the right direction. We still have some work to do, but these are the emissions per calorie. So we've reduced them by 12% so far, which now I'm embarrassed is less than Stanford, so we got some work to do. So, and of course, no surprise to this audience, higher education can really provide very unique solutions. So we're working with academic programs like the Food Law Policy Clinic that I mentioned. We have the Innovation Lab at Harvard that's supporting lots of businesses around climate change and food, which is really exciting. I was lucky enough to attend these Radcliffe Accelerator workshops, setting a strategic agenda toward promoting sustainable diets via institutions, which I'll get to in a moment. And we're also a client in several courses, giving challenges to students, both at our School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, and others. We also held a friend of mine, a professor, started the first food and politics course at Harvard, the Great Food Transformation, which is really exciting. So let me zoom into this workshop and some of the findings, because I think this can be a little bit inspirational. So this workshop really focused on what institutional food service can do. There's obviously 3 examples of how institutional food service can really have big impact. One is because we can leverage our purchasing power to send market signals. 2 is because you have this captive audience and you can start to shift eating habits by changing the food environment. And 3rd, we can serve as living labs, as we've talked about, to pilot and scale this work. And here's just a taste of what came from that workshop. Future strategic research agendas that could be inspirational, hopefully, to people. We need surveillance systems to monitor trends. We'll be talking about data and KPIs later. Obviously, there's a need for improvements there. Where can we improve optimal messaging to inform strategic intervention design? Where should we be piloting new interventions? We can be simulating scenarios and solutions and seeing the impact. And of course, we should be developing new plant-based foods and innovative recipes. So that's a little bit about what we're doing at Harvard. Excited to learn more from everybody else. And here's our website and ways to get in touch with us and me as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Yeah, please reach out to him and all the other speakers, of course, during the breaks and afterwards. Use the day, today, the International Day, where we try to bring together the whole world to start on local actions on planetary health diet solutions. So we have our last speaker now, and I wanted also to have a student perspective. So very warm welcome to Sharon Nehrenheim here on stage. She is a student at the University of Applied Science in the Master Program for Entrepreneurship for Regenerative Food Systems. So back from Boston to Wädenswil, and I am delighted to hear your perspective. Stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Denise, for inviting me to say a few words on the topic from a student's perspective. And hello, everyone. My name is Sharon. And this is also me at an age where I was finally able to engage in spoken language. And as my mother tells me, my first words weren't the usual mommy or nai, but rather Wurst and Käse, so sausage and cheese. And I think this is indicative of how impactful food is in our lives from a very early stage on. At least this is true for myself, and I think for everyone here too. It's accompanied us throughout our lives. And for example, when I graduated from high school, I started working at Sprüngli, so selling chocolate and sandwiches and Luxemburgerli. I'm still a huge fan. I went on to study, do a degree, then also coordinate national campaigns in advertising agencies for McDonald's. This is actually where I first met Thomas Trutmann, who I also saw in the audience today. During my studies, I also waited tables for a Mexican restaurant. And fast forward to today, I am a vegan, so normal sausage and cheese, at least not the traditional ones, in my diet. And I try and invest everything that I learned along the way when working for my employer, BioVision Foundation, and also try and learn as much as I can about how to make our food systems more regenerative, doing this perhaps master's degree here at ZHAW. And I think this, if you call it track record, more or less is representative of our cohort. So we are a group of people that bring along a very diverse set of skill sets and experience. And it's also completely in line with how the Prefs Master is structured, I think. We are motivated to explore as much as we can and want and try new things and really compose our studies according to what we're interested in and what our talents are. So as I see it, by the time we graduate, we're going to have some 18 different kinds, but complementing backpacks full of knowledge and experience that we can get out there into the world. And all along the way, we're always motivated to try and find ways in dealing with the food systems by accepting and even more so embracing and also investigating the huge complexity of food systems and to really go about it in a very holistic and systemic way. And this is exactly how I see the concept of a planetary health diet, because I think it is representative of how systemic change in food systems can work, how it can help us think and act differently, how it can ultimately drive transformation. And so I feel that the planetary health diet to me as a person can be a framework from which I can deduce something really practical, specific action. So I think this is super valuable, connected to what we've heard before. A cookbook like the Klimatopf, this is super valuable because very often we lack exactly this actionable information. And with this actionable information provided to me by the planetary health diet, the concept of the planetary health diet, I can, as a consumer within this very, very complex system of foods, make a real difference on a local, maybe even a regional level. Ideally, I do so connected to initiatives that we just heard before. And ideally, we go even beyond that. Oh, sorry, that was too quick. We go beyond that, I wanted to make it big again, I'm sorry. Go beyond that and motivate change on a decision-making level, so also influence the food system on a national level, which ultimately could lead and co-impact to a transformation on transnational or even global levels. So I would say that the planetary health diet can help us transform the food systems going from local to regional to national and global. But I also feel, oh, here it is, sorry, I'm a bit confused. But I also feel that a systemic point of view that I just mentioned before also asks for a consideration of all contexts and all lives and realities. So while this may be true for me, that it's really actionable and applicable and realistic in my life, it is very probable that it's not the same for someone else in another context. And therefore, I would say that the concept is something very tangible on many different levels, but ultimately one out of many very valuable tools that we can make use of in order to create a more regenerative and just future of food.